star midfielder. I think he's a triple-breasted Ferris winner already, isn't he? Clayton Oliver has signed through until the end of 2030 on a deal that has been speculated, who knows, to be worth about $7 million. Kingy, I have an aversion to long-term deals, as you know. I'll give you my point of view after you give me yours. Good move from Melbourne or not? And what was your initial reaction when you read this news?
I thought it was fantastic. I don't know what you're asking players to do. He's probably going to win the best and fairest again this year. He's probably going to win the Brownlow this year.
Can I just clear? I'm not asking players to do anything. Hats off to Clayton Oliver. If I was him, I would do the same thing, like I would the other players that are in the position to accept the long-term deal. My criticism is at clubs. So no criticism to Oliver or any player that signs a long-term. Happy days to you. Good luck. Well done. Thrilled for you. It just rarely, if ever, there are the rare exceptions that it works in favour of the club.
Well, I'm going to say that this one's a no-brainer to work. 7 years, $7 million. Let's go your way. Okay, so what would you sign him to? Let you be the list manager. You're at Melbourne right now. You've got Clayton Oliver, 24 years of age, almost 25. What sort of contract do you want to sign him to? How many years?
Well, firstly, there's no need to do anything yet because he didn't come out of contract.
You want to let him come out?
Year. Yeah, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any rush to do it now in the off season or the pre-season next year. You have a look at it. You know, I think 4 years is the time frame. 5 for a player like Oliver who is durable. So if you're ever going to give one, this is one where history would say performance tick, durability tick, character, all that tick, 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 tick. But 8 years. I mean, 8 years, Kingy.
So do you want him to come out at 28 years of age?
Not come out. I think
come out of contract at 28 years of age in the prime of his career when free agency is off its head and the contract numbers in 4 years' time are going to be 20% higher than what they are today.
So that this is a misnomer as well because he would have a clause in his contract that his figure goes up in line with the salary cap increases. He's not going to miss out on anything. So if the broadcast rights goes through the roof, he will be compensated for that. That would be a clause in his contract.
Yeah, but that doesn't. No, that's not right. That it's a misnomer because clubs. The Kangaroos offered Dustin Martin $1.2 million a year on a 6-7 year deal 5 years ago. So in 5 years' time, I would say that figure is more likely to be closer to 1.4 than 1.1.
But he will get that because he would have signed a clause in his. Yep, he would have signed a clause in his contract. We can get a player mate anyway. That we're arguing about.
But it'll be somewhere around $7 to $7.5 million for 7 years.
So what did you think of Grundy signing for 7?
But.
And what did you think of Hanbury for 5? What did you think of Aidan Core?
What did you think of Alistair Lynch? What do you think of Lance Franklin? What do you think?
Well,
you can go through them all, but they're all horses for courses. I think midfielders are different. Ruckman, I wouldn't. I think Ruckman, you can get a Ruckman when you need one. I don't know why you need to lock a Ruckman away.
So only
for 6, 7 years.
Midfielders can sign long-term deals, key forwards?
And absolute show-stopping, game-changing key forwards.
Yeah, I think it's such a long time to commit to a player. And once again, this is no criticism on the player and his management. They've absolutely done Melbourne over on this one, and congratulations to them. But Dan Hanbury, there is deal after deal. Rory Sloane signed a 5-year deal. He's hardly been in their best 3 players ever since he signed that 5-year deal.
What would you sign? The answer is not. So what do you sign them to, and do you run the risk of losing them? The problem I've got
you've got to be comfortable with. Do you think Fremantle are kicking the rocks because Chera left? Like they're not. You go and replace them for a bargain.
Chera's not Oliver.
I know he's not, but it's an example of a player who is in the age bracket that we're talking about that you would have loved to have kept, and they would have loved to have kept, and they go, hang on, this actually didn't hurt us. We'll go and get Will Brodie. We'll go and get Jai Miss and target a key forward in the draft, and we'll develop him. And then we've got a lot of money to do some stuff and have some freedom at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's great. But what if Richmond had lost Dustin Martin? Under your policy, you'd have the best players coming out of contract in the prime of their career.
Well, what if Hawthorn lose Buddy? What if Geelong lose Ablett? I mean, you just get on with it. They're not different. Buddy and Ablett and Martin are in the same calibre of player. You find a way, and I think clubs have just got to be a bit more comfortable with the prospect that a player could walk out on you.
If you were list manager, you would have at least 2 a year in that position, which is a concern. You need some security and some. I mean, Petrarca and Oliver locked the way.
5 years is a good bit of security, and now Petrarca and Viney signed a long-term deal. Gawn's done the same. I think there's other players there that have signed long-term. They're going to have to. So what happens if Jackson leaves? Because
what
of
happens
this.
if Jackson?
Yeah.
Well, Jackson could leave. I think Jackson's gone personally.
Right.
But that's not anything to do with the Clayton Oliver deal. I think we just talk about this in isolation. That I just think sometimes you've got to say he's been great for us. He's going to be great to us. We've already won the premiership. You know, the Tom Boyd discussion. You know, Tom Boyd got the Lions the big ransom and then delivered on the biggest stage. And in the end, people go, you know what, I'm probably happy with that. I mean, Oliver's done so much for this football club already. There's not one Melbourne supporter that's disappointed with Petrarca and Oliver locked away for 6, 7, 8
I'm
years.
not arguing any of that and his performance and all, but I look at Kelly and Canelio and these 9, 8. It's such a long. It's hard for me to get my head around that you can commit to a player for that long. We agree to disagree. Can open up the phone lines and you can have your say. 1300 736 736. We'll get to the Friday agenda as well shortly. But there's a couple of other things as well. Jordan De Goey, have you had a thought about where his football is best for him? Can I put it that way? Is it at Collingwood or is it elsewhere?
Well, it depends how you want to look at it. So I think you've got to start seeing this as a business. This is a business. So you've got to do the best for your own situation to set up the rest of your life. Now, if he thinks that he needs more support than most, he signs for less and he stays. And he gets that support at Collingwood. If he thinks he needs finance, he probably leaves. And he probably gets that long-term security in his life after football, given the baggage that he's already had to carry. Okay, through fault of his own, that he's brought this heat on himself. But at the end of the day, that's got to be worth something. The guy's been front page of the paper more often than not this year. So that's got to be worth something.
Did you hear, I'm not sure if you heard, I didn't hear it. I read Chris Scott posturing, I guess, to almost a sales pitch to him that you know, the fact that they want those types of players to live on the edge a little bit and embrace that.
Awesome.
Which is what they've had in the past, you know, with the characters that they've had and Chapman and Johnson punching on and Stokes got into a bit of mischief, Stevie J himself, Gary Ablett in his own way, Nathan Ablett in his own way. And those big figures, it feels the fit to me. And it feels the right one for Geelong to get because you get him for nothing.
You get him for nothing. So this is the thing with free agency. This is what I keep saying to you. The only currency in the AFL cycle are AFL national draft picks of the elite level, picks 1 to 10. If you sign a free agent, there is no draft costs.
Yes.
It is only finance only. So that's why you can pay $1.4 million a year because you still keep your list build. Your list strategy is still in order. But it hurts the club that player leaves because most of these guys are top 3, top 5, top 10 picks. So I think that's a double whammy if you can lure one. I thought that the Chris Scott discussion was a ripper. He said most of these guys that think differently about the world than the rest of us
Live on the edge.
are high management work.
Yeah.
There are a lot of man hours for your football club, but bloody hell, it's worth it. It's worth it. Game day, when you need someone to kick you a goal and your team's only kicking 12 a game at the moment, they're hard to find.
Yeah, I'm not
Would
sure.
you touch him?
I'm not. I think Geelong's the only fit.
Sydney?
Maybe Sydney if they can squeeze him into the salary cap, which I know they have trouble with. 0433 11 16. Collingwood fans hate it. They say, Corn, stop sending De Goey to Geelong. So they want to keep him and they want to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Geelong colours next year. That's just
Geelong colours, you reckon?
Yeah, it's just a gut feel.
Well, I think your first port of call is a football club, and Jared he's 100% opposite on this. He'll get good money where he goes. Don't worry, he'll be getting $750 plus, and it's just about whether your leadership group can control him or not.
It was honestly fascinating. He went on to speak about what Clarko did in the lead up to the 2014 grand final, and you know replayed some of the stuff from 2012, and spoke about Franklin leaving and how does your family feel on that day, and you know you want to make them. And then they just remember that 2014 grand final. The game was over 5 minutes in, but I mean, do we trust Essendon to do anything?
Do you trust them to do anything?
And should they do something? Like, do they have long memories? Because the week after that Sydney game, there was all fire and brimstone, wasn't it? They played Richmond. I thought it was I didn't think it was authentic, the physicality on that day, and then it sort of dropped off again. I don't know. Do you think Ben Rutten's referenced it this week?
I think when the coach agrees with Luke Parker in the post-match and says that's our football club at the moment, not just Dylan Shield. It's hard to then turn that to a us versus the world mentality. I think they were too accepting of that. Most clubs and clubs that I've been involved with, they would have rallied against that. We're not happy with that. You want to do that to us? Okay, that's fine. You win today. We see you next time. They didn't do that. They went the other way. So I don't know if you can then flip it as we're going to be so tough today. They're going to be so proud of us. I mean, it's a bit of a nonsense, isn't it, really? He didn't actually duck his head or do anything,
No, he
Dylan Shield.
didn't.
That's the irony of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So one of the great sledges of all time, because nothing happened in the build-up to warrant that sort of feedback. I reckon it's a ripper.
Yeah, I just want to see if Essendon do anything because it's a special day. Hodgie said, Luke Parker wants to come over, have his family there, a lot of people. He wants to get a nice win, go out for dinner. Let's see if they make life a little bit uncomfortable for him. What do you want to put on the agenda this morning, Kingy?
Well, I just need to play. I can't introduce it. Just play it, please. Just play it.
But I'm telling you, that man there could be the best player in the competition in 3 years' time. I'm telling you, he has attributes to be Christian Petrarca-esque and be the best player in the comp by the time he's 25. He's 22. I don't want to talk about Sam Walsh because I love him and I respect him. I'm just saying that Connor Rozee in 3 years' time could be the best player in the competition.
There's a lot of coulds in there. You love the word could because then you can back out of it in 18 months' time.
Yes, you back out of much.
Oh, hang on. I've heard you argue your way out of everything. What are you talking about?
Do you disagree with it? Do you disagree?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
You think you'll be the best player in the comp for a 6-week period or 8-week period?
I think
or half a season or something?
His upside is ginormous, and I clearly watch him pretty closely. He doesn't know how good he can be, and what he's doing at the moment, I think he's going understated a little bit. When Port Adelaide needs someone
doing at the moment? What's he doing special
He's
at the moment?
influencing games. He turned that game against Gold Coast single-handedly. Now, there's not many players in the comp that can do that. There's a handful, and it's not Boak anymore that Port Adelaide look to when they need someone. It's Marshall and Rozee. And his ability to get in and out of traffic and the speed and power that he plays with centre forward, it's not dissimilar to what Petrarca was doing at 21, 22. That's all I'm saying. So I just think there's ginormous upside. Now I'm happy to debate it, and the thing about this one is, as you found out last week, you'll never get a unanimous verdict on who the best player in the competition is.
No, it's all opinion.
It is subjective to it. Now anyone can have their own opinion. I guess it's a bit of guesswork, a bit of forecasting, a bit of playing midfield full time, developing into that role, which he's had no familiarity with doing. I just think there's huge upside for him.
My worry is he's not a noted. He's not a massive goal kicker.
He won their goal kicking award in his first year.
Yeah, I get that, but this year he hasn't been that. He hasn't been that this year. He kicked the last couple of weeks. He kicked five in 4 weeks as a half forward, and then he's been in the midfield and he's not a 35 disposal getter. So I'm just worried that he's one of those guys that's stuck in the middle. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner earlier this morning. Is he better than that?
Oh, he's better player than Cam Rayner. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. But have you got a thought? I wanted to ask you, in 3 years' time, as I said, I put that to Hodge. He said McCluggage. Others will say it's one of the King boys, and you can believe that.
It just worries me that he's a swooping finishing type, not a generator, in, grab it, and leg drive out goal kicker. That's my concern. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to be wrong. I love these sorts of players. I'm happy to be wrong, but it's a big call, the best player in the game in 3 years' time. It's a big call. Because the players he's going to have to go past are still going to be Clayton Oliver,
Petrarca,
Christian Petrarca, that level.
Bontempelli, all of that. Yeah, I'm happy to debate that. If you've got something you want to debate, put it on the agenda. It's been a bit topical. I think Ralphie wrote an article during the week in the Herald Sun about the new type of rebuild, and it sort of caught my attention a little bit because we've all seen what's happened at North Melbourne, where you sort of delist 11, then you delist 9, and all of a sudden half your group's gone in 2 years, and you're where you are now. Similarly at Adelaide and rebuilds, those full-scale, brutal rebuilds in the past that have taken so long. What do you do if you're West Coast, Kingy, with a lot of senior players? Can it be a reset more than a rebuild? Or do they need to cut savagely like others have done in the past?
It depends what you believe. Do you believe you need to get elite level picks into your footy club to win a flag?
Yes. Can you do both?
Well, I don't think you can. You need to. So Geelong have done well to recruit a Patrick Dangerfield who wanted to go back to Moggs Creek. But outside of that,
Jeremy Cameron.
Jeremy Cameron, they've done really well, and they've got a uniqueness about them. Geelong, haven't they? They've become a destination club because I think as much about their location and the ability to. It's a little bit like Sydney. It's the Sydney version for Melbourne. You're in town, but you're out of town, if you know what I'm saying. So, look, I don't have the. No one has the answer. There's no right or wrong way to build a list, but there's no point building a list that's capped to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. That we know, and we've seen a lot of those. So, have the Kangaroos done the? I mean, I saw a list of the players they delisted. I know you're big on Trent Dumont.
Yeah,
but
Mason Wood.
Mason, are they going to be the guys that you hang your hat on for the list?
It's not that. It's the damage that it does.
What is that?
No, it's the damage it does to exposing a whole group of young players playing together at once.
Yeah.
So it's
but that's okay if
you do need some senior players and bigger bodies around you.
No, I don't necessarily agree. I think
look at Taron Thomas. Look at the lack of improvement from their core group now because they're asked to do so much.
Look at the form. But look at the form of the senior core players. It's been awful. Like if they actually showed the way, like a Tex Walker does, like a Rory Laird does, then you get a chance for these guys to play lesser roles. So when they underperform, it elevates the importance of that next layer of player that's probably not quite there. But that's okay. That's some of the tough learnings. And that made me talk to you about the priority pick discussion. Like it's okay to not give the Kangaroos a priority pick. I'm not rusted on either way. But if you don't whinge about the crowds not going to the footy next year because they're underperforming. And don't whinge about having to give financial assistance because their sponsorship is not there. Because this is what you're talking about. Unless you give the fans something to watch, you become 1/18th of the business that's underperforming. That becomes a drain on the finances of the whole thing. So we've always had priority picks, and it annoys me because every team that's had success over the last 10 years has had a form of priority pick.
I'm not. I know you sort of wanted to debate this. I'm not opposed to them getting a priority pick, but you got to make sure they do the right thing with it. Now,
what do you mean?
Well, bringing Aidan Corr in for 5 years as your marquee signing is the wrong thing to do. He made Darcy Fogarty look like Wayne Carey on the weekend. And this is a guy that was playing Sandful this year. So you got to make sure that you pick the right people and make the right decisions with that pick. So it's fine that you can give it to them. Make sure you use it correctly. Now, Eddie's thrown up radical things during the week, which I don't necessarily agree with, but you've got to make sure that you've got the right people in place. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with their...
I don't think that was Eddie's best work, to be honest.
I don't know what they're going to do with the structure around the list management team because it's been decimated. We don't need to back over that. But you want to be targeting...
I'll give you some names, right, of the players that have been taken as priority selections. Luke Shuey and Jack Darling, Jared Roughhead, Xavier Ellis, Dale Thomas, Brett Delidio, Alex Rance, Adam Cooney, Ryan Griffin. Their names, their picks you can't get wrong. So what we did with the Gold Coast, giving them picks 1 and 2
so you would
gives them a chance.
So there's different versions of the priority pick. There's a straight up bang, they're going to get 1, so you'd give them 2 as well.
Well, there's a watered down version. So it's the old, look, hey, we want to help you. We want to make you better, but we don't want to give you that good a player.
So how would Adam Simpson be feeling about that, though? Or West Coast? They all of a sudden
they got Luke Shuey and Jack Darling.
I know, but they're just as much of a mess this year as what North are.
They've enjoyed the spoils of the priority selections already. You can't tell them forgetting it.
Are you going to sell that to them, though? Are you going to sell that to West Coast? Hang on, because you've had some success. You're not going to get the second best player in the country. Now you're going to get the third.
Mind if you don't. I don't mind if you don't. But don't whinge about the Kangaroos being 18th, 18th, 17th, 12th and 9th the last 5 years and saying, we're not going to help them anymore. Right. They've created this themselves. There's not a rebuild that's ever been done that the club didn't create for themselves. So this nonsense that you delisted too many players is ridiculous. Name me a rebuild that wasn't caused by that club themselves.